Hey, what's up guys, my name is Brett, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my Duel Links video, welcome back to another Duel Links discussion video. Today we're going to be taking a look at towards the end of December because we have the Duelist Chronicles GX, the Welcome to Duel Academy event. Obviously I've already had my opinions out there on how long it's taken us to actually get to this point, but this event is probably going to be, if all goes to plan, I think, in my eyes, might be very beneficial for Duel Links' future because with GX, we've seen the first ever anime-only card be usable in Duel Links, Mandala from the Super Chaz event, well, the Serious Chaz event, sorry. And I think we're about to see a bunch more, because in the GX anime, in this arc they're covering this event, the Paradox Brothers actually returned for a tag duel against Jaden and Cyrus, in which if they lost, then Jaden and Cyrus would be expelled. And they used a new archetype, I guess. They used a bunch of new cards based around their Gate Guardian themed deck, and we know they're going to be in this event because obviously we have the event scenarios leaked, as well as the two event skills, the level 20 and 40 skills for the Paradox Brothers, obviously being either add a Gate Guardian to your hand at the start of the duel, or to at the third turn of the Paradox Brothers just place Gate Guardian down on the field for free, which obviously is a pretty decent skill. It's better, I think, than Elements Unite, which obviously we have access to, and this is a bit more powerful, so I doubt we'll ever see the skill be used for ourselves. But we have 5 cards to talk about today that the Paradox Brothers could potentially be using, and one of them is a TCG card, the rest of them are anime/game exclusive cards. And now, we know these are in the game files because there are voice lines for these cards, and I've talked about cards with voice lines, cards with voice lines for before in the past, which we haven't got, so again, take this with a grain of salt, but it might potentially happen. We've seen it happen with Mandala. There's no reason to say it can't happen here, especially since this card was, well, a couple of these cards at least were very prominent to the duel, actually, like the outcome of the duel and how Jane and Cyrus actually won. So let's start with Dark Designator, the only TCG card on this list. A spell card. Declare one monster card name. If the declared card is in your opponent's deck, add one copy of that card to your opponent's hand. This is actually pretty decent, and the only thing right now I'm thinking is that this might be too hard for the AI to use reliably, because the AI in theory would just call out any random card in the game, and most of the time the effect wouldn't go off. But if you were to actually use it in Duel Links yourself in a PvP environment, then you would know in most cases what cards your opponent is running. If they're running vampires, you know most cards of their deck. Blue Eyes, you obviously know they're running a Blue Eyes. But like in an AI environment, they would have to know your deck, or at least know what cards were related to what cards you'd already played in the duel, which they already kind of know, because obviously in the card studio you can see related cards, or roughly related cards. There are a lot of things that are a bit missing from that list, but they could use that as a database for how to decide what card to call out at random. So that could be a cool card, but one I think that is more suited to the PvP rather than PvE, and at some point we might get, but right now we won't. The next card is Defense Wall. Now this is actually a really good card. Like if you thought Clayman was busted because Konami only wants to give us one of them, this guy is even better. A level 4 4-star, 0 attack, 2100 defense, also was out in Arc 5. That's actually quite surprising. Probably it's in Arc 5 106, so yeah, it's in one of the later episodes. While this card is in face-up defense position, your opponent cannot attack other monsters you control. So if you have 2 of these on your field, they have the Dynalock basically, which was really not nice to play against with for hires, and I don't think it's going to be any nicer if Paradox Brothers are running multiple copies of Defense Wall, which means you'd have to use things like Tribute to the Doomed to try and get over them. In general, they're still pretty high defense. Obviously, Duel Links right now is very special summon focused, being able to bring out pretty high attack point monsters very easy. Obviously, Destiny Heroes and Mars Heroes have that very easily, Blue Eyes have that very easily. Secret Summoning in general will get over this pretty standard, and obviously if you're running Elemental Heroes, then the majority of heroes we have in the game right now are a lot better than the ones Jade had access to in the anime. So again, like, Defense Wall won't be too much of an actual issue to go against, and so it would be a cool card to see played with the Paradox Brothers, but apart from that, I don't think we'd actually ever see it, but still a very cool card nonetheless, and one I think would be really fun to go against. So yeah. Next card is actually, I lied. Next card is Labyrinth of Klein. Now this is a card that was in Tag Force 5, and obviously the Paradox Brothers weren't in Tag Force 5, so I'm kind of wondering where exactly this card, who this card was actually used by and why it was actually in Tag Force 5. So it doesn't actually say on the wiki, so unfortunately, no idea. But Labyrinth of Klein, the Paradox Brothers do have a voice line for, and this is obviously one of those cards I think we might not see. Activate only when the opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack, and switch the original attack and defense of that monster until the end phase of the turn. So in Duel Links specifically, this only has the use case of being an attack negation, because we have their main phase 2, therefore there's no real reason for the attack and defense to swap, unless of course your opponent has a card that benefits from gaining the attack of all monsters on your field, and it's just a straight like a live one. So even if their attack points change, then that monster's attack will change. So I don't see this being actually added in because it's pretty much a negate attack. Well, not really a negate attack, but it's a negate attack that negates an attack rather than negates the battle phase. But yeah, like it's a fun looking card. It sounds cool. It sounds like it'd be really good in PvP if we ever got it. But again, that main phase, the lack of main phase 2 really hurts this card, and so I don't think it's gonna see. They might play it. Okay, so I was literally editing this video and I realised I read the effect wrong of Labyrinth of Klein. It actually says until the end of the next turn, which means that everything I was talking about regarding to the main phase 2 is completely valid. Obviously then in your next turn you can then go in and attack over your opponent's monster because they'll be weaker, assuredly, if you know the attack and defense are flipped round. That's most likely what will happen. So yeah, apologies for that, but this card is actually pretty good. The only reason I could see them playing it is because they actually have another card that we used in GX, but isn't in Duel Links. They have a voice line for Labyrinth of Klein, probably because it is a Labyrinth card, but they don't have a voice line for one-on-one fight, which was played in that GX duel against Cyrus and Jaden. This turn, each player selects one monster they control with the highest attack, conduct battle between the selected monsters. I think that would have been a very tilting card to play against in the Paradox Brothers, especially if the Paradox Brothers were designed to be this middle of the tier boss fight in the event, which they very well might have been, or at least like over one of like the second worlds or third worlds in the Duelist Chronicles event. I think this would have been a really good card for them to add to the game. They still could, it just might not have a voice line, which would be quite upsetting, but I think this is an infinitely more interesting card than Labyrinth of Klein, and if they decide to switch the two around and include Klein rather than one-on-one fight, still kinda cool, but one-on-one fight is infinitely better. Now we get onto the good stuff, because this is really where the Paradox Brothers GX deck took to a whole new level of their Duel Monsters deck, which already was not the best, and this card isn't the best either. We have Dark Element. Activate only if Gate Guardian is in your graveyard. Pay half of your life points to special summon one Dark Guardian from your deck. You cannot normal summon or set this turn. So obviously we have the Paradox Brothers skill to either add Gate Guardian to the starting hand, which I think is infinitely better, because then regardless of how far you get in, you could just get it discarded as quickly as possible with a card effect. Or you have the one that summons Gate Guardian to the field and puts it there on the third turn, which mimics the anime more so, because in the anime when Gate Guardian was destroyed you could actually bring out Dark Guardian. And so either way, this card, Dark Element specifically, seems really bad and really hard to get off. Of course the effects could change by the time they came to Duel Links, but one, Gate Guardian having to be in the graveyard is quite hard to get there. Two, half your life points is an incredibly high cost, especially considering that it might take a few turns for the Paradox Brothers to actually get that set up, depending on what they had. Unless they of course just, defense will lock you, then they might be fine. And finally, special summoning one Dark Guardian from your deck. Now that's one area I could see them changing this to hand or deck, because they might only be running one Dark Guardian, at which point their entire deck strategy is just wiped out completely, because Dark Guardian itself has one of the most horrible summoning restrictions I've seen. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except with Dark Element. Like, the card art itself is really cool. It's 12 stars, 3,800 attack, 3,800 defense, so I believe that's either the same or a little bit weaker than the actual Gate Guardian. But it can't be destroyed by battle, which obviously 3,800 attack is pretty hard to get over in Duel Links. You might just, do a Vassal farm or a Wrath farm against it somehow and be able to get over it. But it still can be destroyed with things like Tribute to the Doomed, or you can negate its effect with Forbidden Chalice, or you can use Sakuretsu Armor or Widespread Ruin to get rid of it. So there are a lot of ways around Dark Guardian that weren't present in the GX anime, and so Dark Guardian is very, very underpowered, but still a fun card that could come to Duel Links. And if they do bring these cards, which they have got voice lines in the game for, which means they are at least on the table to be able to come to Duel Links, I at least hope that they change them up a little bit, because it sucks. It really does suck, and it's really cool. At the end of the day, my opinion is that it's really cool that we're finally potentially going to be able to see more anime exclusive cards be playable in a TCG OCG environment, an officially supported, endorsed Konami environment. We're actually getting these cards we may never ever see actually get printed in the TCG or OCG, which to me is really, really fun, and something that, as a fan of the anime and as a fan of the game in general, I think is quite nice, because they don't really compromise the original intention of the card. With a lot of times in the TCG, when they reprint or they print very old OCG cards, or cards from the anime, they change their effects up to give them a more 2018 flair. And whilst that's obviously good for competitiveness and good for if you're playing the TCG, if you're playing a game like Duel Links, a game that heavily relies on nostalgia to actually be fun for most people, outside of playing PvP, then you really want the effects and the cards to retain their integrity to how they were originally designed to be. And I think overall, if we get, just Dark Element, Dark Guardian, and Defense Wall, then that'd be a pretty good job done. That is the phrase, isn't it? I don't know, my mind is blanking right now. It's like the 10th time I've tried to record this video. I've actually gotten the furthest I've gotten into this one, so I think I'm going to keep this take. But let me know your thoughts on these cards, comment down below if you think we'll see them happen in the Duelist Chronicles GX event. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another good Duel Links video. Hopefully, if I can. See you then.